Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the second artist conversation that we are organizing to complement the exhibition of the recipients of the 2020 Governor General's Awards in Visual and Media Arts that is currently installed at the Art Gallery of Alberta. My name is Catherine Croston, and I'm the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the AGA. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are hosting the exhibition and this webinar from Treaty 6 territory, the traditional land of diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Niitsitapi, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge the many Indigenous and Inuit peoples who make Alberta their home today. This acknowledgement is just a small step along the path toward reconciliation, and we acknowledge the critical work that we must continue to do to address the impacts of colonization. The Governor General's Award in Visual and Media Arts is a lifetime achievement award that recognizes an artist's career, their body of work, and contribution to the visual and media arts and fine craft in Canada. This year, 8 artists are being honored in recognition of their exceptional careers and remarkable contributions to the visual art, media arts, and fine craft. The 2020 winners are Deanna Bowen, Dana Claxton, Ruth Cuthand, Michael Fernandes, Jorge Lozano Lorca, Ken Lum, Anna Tarma, and Zainab Verji. This afternoon, we are very pleased to welcome Michael Fernandes. Michael Fernandes is a Trinidad-born artist who came to Canada in the 1960s to study at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. His works often rely on polemical constructs like us and them as a way to provoke self-recognition on the part of the viewer. His installations have a sense of improvisation and literalism, which create a feeling of intimacy and directness, as opposed to the packaged, the streamlined, and the simulated. One can say, at least metaphorically, that his work is always in the first person and present tense, and that it stands against facade and spectacle in favor of activism. At NASCAD, where Michael has taught since 1993, he is known for the subtlety of his pedagogical methods. He has exhibited extensively across Canada and abroad, notably at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, the National Gallery of Canada, Mass MoCA, and MoMA PS1. Michael currently lives in Eastover, Nova Scotia. Tonight, Michael is in conversation with Roy Cossey, a fellow artist and former student. Born and raised in Hamilton, Ontario, Roy Cossey's practice is the result of his semi-nomadic lifestyle. Having established studios in Halifax, Hamilton, Vancouver, Lethbridge, and Medicine Hat, Cossey makes room for the geography and history of each place he inhabits, which then inform his practice. As the child of immigrants, Cossey's continuous relocations pay homage to the impact immigrants can have in their adopted culture, and vice versa, and are an attempt to transgress a vacuous, ego-driven sense of belonging. Most recently, Cossey's solo exhibition, The King is Dead, cast a critical eye towards baby boomer culture and neoliberalism, and was on display at the AGA until October of 2020. He also has a series of drawings in a current traveling exhibition as part of the Alberta Foundation for the Arts Traveling Exhibition Program, which will travel across Alberta until 2023. Before I turn things over to Michael and Roy, just a few notes. Please enter any questions that you have in the chat, and we will answer them at the end of the conversation. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank EPCOR, who support AGA online programming through their Heart and Soul Fund. So please join me in welcoming Michael Fernandes and Roy Cossey. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
All right, Michael.
Roy,
you and me.
Roy.
All right, so it's been a while since I've seen you. It's good to see you, first of all.
Yeah. See how happy I am in this image?
Yeah, you look ecstatic.
I look ecstatic. This is a breaker for me. And it functions as an announcement. You know, I sent it out saying, it's a boy, in case people were wondering what the hell it was. It's a boy. And interesting. It's weird, right? Weird image.
It's an extremely strange image. Actually, I was one of the recipients of that email that you sent out, that notifying that you had a beautiful baby boy now. And I really couldn't make sense of it. I had no clue what I was looking at. But the one thing that really attracted to me that image was just how big your smile is in that. You're just beaming. You're so proud of this new baby boy that you have.
I'm happy.
Yeah, you're happy.
I'm happy.
But maybe the one thing that really kind of got me actually with this is the title, Garment for Unprecedented Times. And I would love to hear how you came up with that, or why that title was important for this outfit, right?
Yeah. Well, it's an idea of serving the impossible. I thought that for many times in the past, I adhered to what was possible in terms of making work. And I actually described a lot of the outcomes as being possibilities. And when I stumbled on this idea, I became aware of the notion of the impossible. And I embraced it in a way in which age, I thought, because of my age and gender, conflates and become, in this positive gesture, a bit of a concoction of some kind. You know, it's like it's dealing with the impracticalities and the impossibilities at the same time by affording it and presenting it in a confident way. It gives the impression of the possible. So
yeah.
I was hoping on some level that there's a sense of the natural, knowing that it's unnatural. Mm-hmm. So by me wearing the suit and with this gesture of smile and affordability of happiness, gave a sense of positivity to the impossible and brought it into a world of the natural. It was designed my intention was to wear it at the award ceremony. And I was seriously meaning to have a conversation with the Governor General. I wanted to have that happen in this outfit.
In exactly that outfit as we see it.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And I was hoping for the invitation to create a serious conversation.
I wish that could have happened, honestly. I think that outfit, and also, as you mentioned too, I think there is something very relevant about the stage of life that you're in as you're wearing that garment, to then have this conversation with such a position as the Governor General, right? Like, what a position within Canadian government. And I think there's something so beautiful about that. It also kind of makes me think of, actually, there was this, I forget what song it is, but it's a Joni Mitchell song where she mentions anima rising. And then I was kind of looking up anima and animus, and it's this idea that, you know, at least with the animus, I could be getting this wrong or mixed up here, but that's this kind of feminizing of masculinity, or this masculinizing of femininity, I guess, as well. Please correct me if I'm wrong for anybody who's watching or listening, right? But that this seems to touch on to that, right? You're letting go of this kind of male ego, maybe, let's say, or maledom, and it's a very soft image, I guess, is what I'm trying to get across.
Well, it's the science behind it, right? That dictates the possibility. And playing with that, again, the notion of bringing it forward in a way of positivity is perhaps attempting a result of the natural, like I said, in terms of the impossibility is what the work is. What is impossible is what interests me, rather than what is possible. So in this work, where even though it's subtle in that way, the garment is in two parts. One part is what we call a onesie, which kids are more familiar with. You know, when we put our kids, you know, like it involves the feet right up to the neck, you know, and again, it's one suit.
Yeah.
And then the other part, which is like a brief, a men's brief, actually was modeled after the Joe Fresh design for the men's brief. And I took into particular, you know, account that it be constructed along those lines, but overwhelmingly large to allow for the expansive belly. Some of my close friends, when receiving it, who hadn't seen me for a long time, thought that something had happened to me. Like, Michael, what has happened to you? And they in preview, they have told me that they thought I had become ill on some level, and that I was presenting it with a smile.
This was like an update, like a personal update. Actually, that's how they were thinking this.
Yeah, and that struck me as being also very interesting, where you could take on the result of suffering or pain or ailment, but instead of being overcome in the gesture, you present the gesture of being fine. So he looks, you know, the man in the outfit, like I said, he's smiling. He gives the impression that everything is okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think those conflations of the opposites are something that I've always been attracted to and continue with. But in this case, gender as well as age is being expressed in the garment.
Mm-hmm.
The garment being a onesie, mostly attributed to the infant stages, and the briefs mostly attend to the adult. So
I guess there's also this aspect of the conversation not actually happening with the Governor General that actually ties into this impossibility as well, right? Like in effect, it becomes an impossible conversation to have now. I mean, unless I don't know how you can chase the Governor General down the street and catch them in this outfit, right? Like,
yeah, but that does not change for me. Does not change my intention.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we would be stricken with the COVID, you know, social distancing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That at that point, I decided to put the outfit on a mannequin, and the mannequin is in the show, the current show installation. But my intention was to wear it, and after wearing it, was to hang it somewhere. But I never intended, I never imagined that the meeting would not have taken place. But once I knew that was impossible, it was not happening, I still went with the idea that to put it in the show.
There's an aspect or an element of bravery, I guess, as well, in trying to, or do you feel that is relevant in this as well, where you would be willing to put on this outfit in such a serious format, such a serious venue as accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award, right? So was that kind of part of your thinking in there?
Yeah, well, not only in the award circumstances, but maybe I could say the bigger picture being the times in which we are experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's why I called it unprecedented times, garment for the unprecedented times. I think that it's touchy in ways that we see the genderization or the unbinary of this thought. And I was well aware that for some, this is a bit too in some ways unsensitive, insensitive. So that appeals to me. There are other works that would reflect the same feeling of the unsettling or the vulnerability with the work, and the unsettling nature of the work, and the impracticality of the work, and also the you use the word brave in some ways, the sort of embracing of the negative in a way that seems, by the gesture of the embrace, to be natural. I keep coming back to that because it's like I'm interested in when the thing doesn't look prepared. I'm interested when the thing looks easy. I'm interested when it looks simple. At the same time, I'm interested when it creates complexity. And that is at the base and has always been part of my MO.
There's something to that. Do you mind if I move through the next slide as I keep talking? Great. There's something about that I find could be very unsettling for a viewer who has no sense of your practice. Let's say just the general layman, just layperson stepping off of the street right into the gallery space. Oftentimes, most people are not expecting that from an artistic practice, from looking at art in the space. It's almost impossible not to have these standardized ideas of what to expect, right? And so how do you find ways to navigate that? Or is that a factor for you, I guess?
I don't think of that. I don't think of that. I don't think of the gallery space being sacred or being different than the street, really. I feel that, as a matter of fact, the street is more unpredictable, obviously, and the gallery can be predictable because people are informed when they go to the gallery, and they may not see what they wish or what they would like to see, but at the same time, they're prepared when they go there. On the street, you could say it's just the opposite. Because you don't know where we are in our heads and you don't know where we are in our mind. We could be going towards our jobs, but we could be completely thinking of our vacation or whatever, or stressed out in ways that has nothing to do with the moment we're experiencing in a traffic jam or anything like that.
Yeah,
that is shown, often when we are beside ourselves. When we are not really taking life easily, So I like the work to be uncensored, but also I like the work to be natural in ways of seemingly very easy, like no articule or no attempt to remove it from the everyday, like I'm not interested in making it different, really. I'm interested in perhaps like the idea that this T-shirt says something and puts us in another place. And I know that area. I lived in Vancouver for a while, and I know the resonance of that territory. So that seeing this on a person out east, which is where it was. This was taken on a farm in Dover, where I live. The guy has goats, and his history is a different thing. But he is wearing a T-shirt that harps back to, which is what all T-shirts of different periods, and when they are recyclable, and when we find them in different, by chance, we encounter them many years past the engagement, past the performance, past the whatever it's attributing to on the front of the shirt. You know, this occasion may have passed 20 years ago, but someone is still connected with it and wears it into the now. And forgets about it. At the same time, is not even aware of what the T-shirt is even carrying. You know?
Which is kind of funny to go back to actually the garment from Precedent Times, the idea of then that garment being something that gets recycled and then gets put into just everyday life, and you can find it, someone finds it at Value Village. And who knows how it becomes repurposed and can take on a whole new life. But it's interesting how the initial gesture, I guess, is so considered and really kind of on some level labored upon to get it right. And then eventually it can kind of become assimilated into everyday life and be used in whatever way people want. Similar to this T-shirt, I guess, as you can say, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, it does have a different life, and you're showing a different life too. And you're not dismissing the history either, because it's it's present in its display.
Because it's built into that garment, like with the text on that shirt, you know it is text, you can read it. But with your garment, again, that's. And speaking, kind of coming to this image too, the condom cucumber. There's again something about late stage in life reading and like that has a strong influence in this image, right? There's something very childish about this image, but it really makes sense coming from the age that you are now, the white hair, the frailty, let's say, right? There's something quite beautiful and feminized about this image to agree.
Well, I think also the idea of the kitchen, the idea of the connection with food, and maybe this age, my age at this time, maybe there is more or less an interest in food. Can be. I've noticed that in myself. I go through stages where I'm more interested or less interested. It rises and falls. And using food to replicate something or to touch or to evoke that is not becomes food, playing with food, you know, at the same time massaging notions of something, you know, notions of how we see endowment and sense of the phallic and all that. Mm-hmm. You know, so, but if you put a condom on a cucumber, which this is, I mean, what are you saying about food? You know what I mean? Is food that violent? Is food that is food that hearsay? Is food that necessary? Is food that at the core of who we are? Like somebody was horny, that's why we are here. You know? Somebody got horny, and here we are.
All of us. Yep.
Yeah. And
direct result.
So yeah, and it's a crude, but it's also it's a reality. You know,
there's something about kind of coming back to this serving the impossible, because it would be absolutely impossible to impregnate anything with a condom on a cucumber. Do you know what I mean? Like there's just utterly impossible. But there's also this kind of like futility, this aspect of futility of like maybe the way a little boy or a child stares at a pregnant belly and with fascination. It's almost the opposite here, right? Like it's not lamenting, it's playful still, right?
We are perishable. Mm-hmm. We are vegetable. We are food. The food we eat, we become. You know, so there is this circle or cycling of potency and impotency and also the sense of what you eat, how you become, what you become.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a great doing of, like I said, somebody was horny, and that's here we are. It makes us in some ways virile, but at the same time, like we have a shelf life too. Right?
Yeah.
And that shelf life is being considered in terms of cooking and in terms of what we do and what we continue to do as individuals as we move forward, as we live. So
do you think there's a need to remind people of that? Like, is that why this gesture, this photograph exists, let's say, not the gesture, but the photo?
I'm not thinking so much about others in terms of, I'm not preaching or I'm not teaching. I don't see it quite like that. I see it more as discovering or exploring areas of myself or of my own thinking about something or experiencing of something. So these works are in the first person, Catherine had mentioned earlier on. And they're more akin to, I feel on some level, if I experience something, I know there got to be another who has also experienced this. We may not experience it in the same way, but I don't think of my audience, really. I don't. I think more of people have told me about the audience, them, have included themselves as the audience. And then at that point, you get a sense of yay or nay, like this bothers me or it doesn't, but this is so weird that it's not even, I dismiss it. I don't like it. Or I feel that it's not sensitive, but I find within it, my attempt is to cite that area where the vulnerability exists and there's a normalcy. There's a normalcy. I'm not putting something down. I'm not putting something up, but I'm making that space where there's a lot of slippage and a lot of sense of maybe, perhaps, the possibility.
I think that sounds like a very tenuous balance, let's say, because it seems that there's a process of setting your own ego aside to not just try to create your own mandate, let's say, or to push an agenda forward, but really to be able to put something into the world that is not neutral, but it's neutral enough for anybody to be able to approach it and have a reaction to, and not feel like they're being pushed in some way, right? So is there is that something that just comes naturally within your practice, or is that something that you've considered and worked on in the sense of a practice, right?
Well, it's something that I'm working on, I would say. It's not over and it's not complete, and probably it never would be. Nothing is ever completed, I thought. And as we go on, we carry with us whatever that has made us. So we are gathering, we are gatherers. As we get older, we're gathering more, and we're also losing. So in that area of losing and gaining, I find there is a beginning of understanding of something that I find it's not infinite, but it's a curiosity that is born with a freshness because it's new. You were never in this situation before. You were never experienced it. You heard about it, what it is to be getting old, what it could be like, and yet at the same time, in experiencing it, you tend to dismiss the idea of getting old in a way that maybe intimidates you. Or if you could say from the other point of view where, like, for example, the expression is, I'm too old for that. Or, listen, man, I don't need to, I am old. Somebody had told me this once many years ago. Listen, I said, aren't you concerned about? No. I'm old, man. So I'm allowed. Or at this age, I don't care, what others think. And that's freedom.
Yeah.
That's realizing a freedom. And I think when we think of putting things together in that notion of surprise or a sense of discovery, at the core, it expresses, it's like a breakout, it's a breakaway. It busts, it breaks, it pops. And that becomes an expression of one. It's like, so instead of it being framed, whatever it is, it splices in so many different ways, or it goes. It's like somebody told me about this image that they thought that I was mimicking someone from Afghanistan.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, that's interesting that you said that, but I didn't even have that territory in my mind, that geography, that place. I wasn't even thinking that. What was I thinking? I was thinking of an expression of like starkness, like, what the hell? At the same time, with the humor.
Yeah.
So I thought more towards Inspector Clouseau in lookalikeness.
Yeah.
And I've used myself in many instances where I felt like those characters or different characters, like Mr. Gadget sometimes. And I like those seemingly, like the wearing of or trying on of a loss or a sense of other. It's a very simple gesture, but you still can't be that. You still can't be that. And knowing that for whatever moment the camera could capture, it is that. From my point of view. That's interesting. That's interesting.
There's kind of a funny thing as well about you putting on this costume to be an other, to be this Clouseau character. And while you're being an other, someone else further others you in a sense by then calling you out as being from Afghanistan. And there's kind of a nice little kind of, not feedback loop, but just like this downward spiral of it just can go on infinitely of you just get othered to othered to othered, and it gets further and further away from the point. I thought that actually that's maybe how this project had started. Someone had just assumed you were from Afghanistan, and so then you put on this outfit, this costume. But
no,
it's actually the other way around. The other way around.
The image made that connection. See, there's something interesting in this room. I'm hearing. Can you hear some popping sounds?
Yeah.
Okay. The popping sounds are coming from a fireplace behind me.
Okay.
Now, this fireplace, you can't see it. It's not in the image, but it's, I describe it. You're familiar with them. It's a fake fireplace, and it has a sound element that provides the crackling, right? That's what you're hearing. Now, it's electrical. It's a plug-in situation. And every now and then, the furnace, the real source of heat, comes in and provides us with what the supposed function of the replica is. I find that, it's so simple, but it's so disorienting that we have accepted it without even noting it. You know, we're not even checking it, and it's beautiful. And maybe there is no such thing as being the specific, or the, like, what is the ideal?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we may think of it, but what is it really? This could be ideal.
Yeah.
And yet it on one, if you take it apart, it's flawed. It's so heavily flawed. But then, is it flawed as we enjoy it and include it in our surroundings and in our life? I think we are gesturing of its uniqueness, and there's something brave about that, and very subtle in terms of how we comprehend, you know, like how we could comprehend what is legitimate and what isn't.
Yes. It's like the camouflage on a predator, or it's like the nice smiling face of capitalism to a degree as well. Like, you know, there's more to it behind the scene. What is the function of this thing ultimately? So it's the entryway, or it's the beautiful flower that attracts the bee, let's say, as well, right? But yet there's a complete futility within, since there's actually no heat coming from the fireplace. You wanted to play a video, so I want to just kind of get that playing just for the amount of time we have.
Sure.
When I hit play, the sound will kind of be loud for a second, but I'll quickly turn the volume down, and then we can keep talking over that.
Yeah.
Right. Just 1 second. So do you want the sound fully off, or?
No, I can't see it though. I could hear it, but I couldn't see it.
Here we go.
If there were any doubt that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter ever, what you're about to see will end that doubt. After Warriors practice Saturday, Curry decided to get some extra three-pointers up, and he just kept making them and making them.
There we go. So
making them. He hit 105.
Maybe we'll hear the intro.
105. Someone from the Warriors started recording after the first two, so there are 103 of them on video. His shooting streak lasted for 5 minutes, so we're just going to let it run picture in picture while we continue the show so you can see them all. Trae Young, 37 points in the Hawks season opener. John Morant had 44 in the Grizzlies season opener. Then they met Saturday in Memphis.
So
let's see what happened.
What is it about this video that you wanted to talk about? Because there is something like I also really appreciate.
Well, we know so much
for the three
like
Grizzlies,
this.
Trailing by 2 at the
So
half.
many
Morant,
examples
6 or 9
like
shooting,
this
4
exist,
assists in the first half,
where
with 28-7 for the game.
Photoshop
Man, he is so
becomes
fun to watch. From Curry
the tool.
range, Hawks up 4. About 5 minutes remaining in the quarter.
Photoshop becomes the
Hawks
tool,
up 2, Young.
right?
Feeding Kevin Warner.
And in this case,
Warner with 21 off the bench. The
apparently,
Hawks by 4. Under 4 minutes
not.
remaining. Hawks up 5.
I mean,
Young setting up Nathan Knight on the alley-oop.
105
Give you another look at that one. Young making it real easy.
consecutive
for 9
threes.
9.5 assists in the third quarter. Hawks down 1
I
after
mean, that's
3.
unheard of.
About a minute and a
right?
half remaining in
So
the game.
it
Hawks
almost
up 3. I mean, the league is in such good hands
it
with
verges
some of
on
these
the
great young players.
impossible,
Look at Young.
right?
Give you another look
It
at that one.
ventures on
Yes,
the
okay.
On Grayson
impossible.
Allen.
Now,
Yeah.
I find the fact
And
that
the
you know
Hawks up by
that
5. Next Hawks possession, they're up
we
6. A minute
tend
change
to
remaining. It's
normally
winning time. Morant guarding
apply
Young.
these
Advantage
notions of
Young.
the
He hit
impossible through
36.
fabrication.
And the Hawks
Apparently
going to win it
here,
122
it's an
to
example
112 in the battle
of
Young scoring point guard.
natural.
Yeah.
Steph
Yet
Curry's
it
still gonna
achieves
make
the impossible.
65 more
So
in a
I find
row
that
under strain. All right, Raptors
example
first,
of
they were 29 of
outcome
75 from 3.
of
They
result
missed 46 threes as Curry
far
gets ready
more,
to hit his 46.
like I think in terms
a
of
row. DeRozan there.
how are
OG
we, or
Anunoby
how am
here.
I like
Curry has
this
still not missed.
in the way I
They missed
perceive
46
and,
in
or
this game. All
I
right,
move my
under a
work.
minute to play.
You know,
Spurs
like
down 1.
how
Murray
consistent
drives, can't get the layup. Scramble. For the rebound.
consistent
DeRozan.
in terms of the impossible.
to Patty Mills.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
No,
It's like,
Marcus Aldridge, no,
so
puts it in,
he
yes.
shoots
Spurs take 1-point lead with 29
105
seconds left. 8 seconds left.
without
Raptors down 3. Van
flaws,
Vliet.
you know, and it's going straight
You're
through
no
the
Curry.
hoop. I mean, you think about that. That's
In and out
impossible.
again,
How
Finnegan.
could anybody
It
do
was
that?
that close.
And yet,
Meanwhile, Steph Curry is going to hit
it was done.
like 50
So-
more
And there's
threes
video
in a row
proof, yeah.
almost.
Yeah, so you could take it down.
Magic
You could
taking
take
on
it down.
Russell Westbrook of the Wizards at
Video
DC.
down?
Westbrook
Yeah.
triple-double in his first game for Washington, and he was at it again.
I like very much the realm in where that sense of doubt and the sense of the possibility exists. You know, where we become super. You know, it's like the
Yeah.
superhuman. You know, in terms of accomplishing, in this case, an athlete at the finest level,
Mhm.
showing something that is not the everyday in the sport.
There's something also about like there's a nice aspect to this video too, because it all comes down to practice as well, right? So the only way you can hit that repetition is by constant practice. And
Yeah.
there's something beautiful that can relate to an artistic practice, I think, as well. But what is practice within an artistic practice? Like, what is a jump shot
That's
to an artistic practice, right?
That's interesting for me. That's a word that I don't use.
Yeah.
The idea of practice does not appeal to me because it comes with a notion of trial, a sense of rehearsal, a sense of an agenda, really. And I feel I lean more to the spontaneity, to the improvised, and to the happening of something. So yet when I use that as an example of something, I'm quite aware that, as you said, it may have taken practice.
Mm-hmm.
I think to get to a point to be able to do what I do, the way I do, it may not seem like practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
there's
think,
still a
I think,
commitment, though.
I think there is work going on there to accept that. For me, I'm not talking about another. I'm talking about for me to move my interest can only be because I have done a certain preparation.
Yeah.
So yet when it says, when we use the word my practice, I diss the notion that I am rehearsing or I'm looking at something. If the thing becomes much like work or feels like work, I'm not interested. I'm not interested.
And so, but there's something, I guess maybe then you think about the lifespan of an athlete is quite short, right? It's all within their youth. By the time they're like 35, they're almost aged out. And so, but for an artist, I mean, it's like, as we've been looking at your images, the very first one of the garment for unprecedented times, there's a commitment that extends beyond the basic work life that we understand. And in context or in juxtaposition to the athlete's career, the artist has all this longevity to build this understanding or this commitment within themselves. Is that something that does that make sense to you? Or?
I play the sport, table tennis.
Mm-hmm.
I love table tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I could safely say I'm at my best than I've ever been.
Yeah.
And I feel, and other people have told me, all the people I play with constantly, that I'm getting even better.
Yeah.
Yet as I get older, you would think it's the other way around, like you were saying with the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, I have played with champs in the sport, and they tell me this. I know number 3 in the world in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's a woman in this case. She has told me that I enjoy the sport more than she does, because she is under a lot of stress and pressure. Being number 3 in Canada, she's aiming for number 1. And she's watched me play. She would not play me. She's given me some pointers. I do everything wrong in her eyes, but I seem to have fun, and I've come very far. She said, you play a very good game. So when it comes to wanting to play with her, to learn more, she tells me I would just throw her off her game, because the person she's practicing for is not my style.
No.
So they keep themselves geared to the next, to the competition. And that makes for the sport where it's no fun. Then I feel I'm missing something. If my work is not fun, it's like that. I'm also missing something. If I'm being stressed out to the degree it's not, I am recreational.
So do you think
She is professional? I am not professional.
Yeah.
I am not seeking professionalism in that way.
So then how can you, or is there a way to relay that into, let's say, an art practice for, or an art career, let's say, for younger people, like maybe people just heading out of their BFAs, you know, because once you're out of your BFA, there's all this pressure to go into an MFA and professionalize and keep this like competition almost going. Otherwise, why are all these credentials, right? Yeah. So is there a way to relay that?
Yeah, but I don't see that as competition, though. I see that as availability. You know, in terms of if someone wants a job, if someone wants to teach, you know, just having your under degree, you know, it's not gonna cut it. In some cases, you know, like really, they're hiring at the level of PhDs now in art. Really. In the universities, they're looking at the artists with the PhDs for the job. And you know, and you think about it. The thing that I always felt about art, and I still do to this stage, is that it's the one thing I could think of that you don't have to have a license for. You don't have to have a certificate to be an artist. You don't have to pass a test to be an artist. But we made it as though you have to. And if you are a young person today, graduated with a bachelor's, you know, I'm sure there are people who would employ you. If you know, there used to be in my days, they had this terminology. It was called equivalence. So you didn't have your master's, or you didn't have even in my days, in the 50s when I went to school, you know, late 50s, you know, there was no such thing as an art college per se. You know, there was no, if there was, it was a kind of, it was non-degree, you know, and people went back who came out of that education and went back and got their degrees to get work, to become teachers, right? But there was always an attention to your histories, or to your record of work, your functioning as an artist. So they'd look at your shows, your exhibition, your activity became the equivalence to your employment without the papers.
So do you think that there's a way to navigate around all that?
Today, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I believe that's how I come to where I am.
Yeah.
I don't have a BFA. I never went to a accredited school. I never did.
Yeah.
You know, I stopped going to school in 1963. You know, I didn't even finish the 4-year program. But, you know, do I fault myself on any way? It's very lucky.
Yeah.
But I had the equivalency. I was very active from day one. Even as a student, a second-year student, I was in Montreal Painters Show. My painting was selected to be with the painters, professional painters at the time, Molinari, Gagnon, Gaucher. I was in that company with my painting and being a student. So it was like they were my teachers.
Yeah.
And I had a sense of something that was beyond what the school was also, and it's not, it just, I could say luck or something. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I did have a taste for something.
I know when I was, so I did do a master's program, and it was a program that was closely connected with the undergrad program that was also at that university. And something I noticed was this pressure that the undergrads felt to immediately jump into an MFA. They just had to just apply immediately and get into that, and not take any time to, let's say, go back into the streets, like get out of the institution, get out of that kind of mindset. And there's a beautiful thing to that era of what you're discussing that just seems impossible now. And is there any way to, let's say,
well, if I was on a selection committee and this person came forward with work that had nothing to do with an institution of any kind, this person was self-taught, let's put it like that. I personally felt moved by the work, that the work was good. That's my vote. I don't care what that person had attached. If I was in the position of hiring and I saw this energy that stood out, got my vote, got my backing, but that's not the status quo. I don't think many people, like when you teach somebody how to apply for a Canada Council grant, and you have a formula how to write, how to look. I think it's a problem there. You're citing something that has nothing to do with anybody being unique about something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're looking for a fit. And that I'm never enchanted with, and that never seemed to appeal. Never did, even when I was in art school. Never appealed to me.
Which kind of goes back to this sense of bravery that we're talking about, or that I brought up at the beginning.
I think very early, the notion I saw, the sense of the idea of freedom. I experienced that you can do anything, right? Yeah, you could do anything. Well, why aren't you not doing anything? And then you check in and you realize, well, why am I not doing anything? It's a good question. So you will find the reasons why you're not. So, like, I'm at a point where there are no excuses. There's no excuses. No excuse. This is an interesting image. This is a very simple situation, but I planted those flowers.
Yeah.
I didn't plant the rock. That's a rock, a big rock.
Yeah.
And this rock is more alive. Right? It's covered totally with this lichen. The deer eats this. The deer come and they eat it. So it so happens that this rock is, maybe they don't come to this rock. This is spared. But I would water the rock, and by watering the rock, I never watered the plants. These are annuals.
Yeah.
But these are the rock is perennial. Comes up it dormants. It's sleeping now, right? And so I call it grow rock. And there's something about the music too that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
The roll, the rock as well. And yet it's very, it's growing, but yet my attention to it is less in the way of being present or alive, and more as being deaf. It's solid, it's blunt, it's heavy, it's tough, right? But at the same time, with this life, from the inside to the outside, rocks are alive.
100%. I would agree with that as well.
So, I'm interested in the cup pouring into another vessel, one vessel into the other, one becoming the other in the other as well. You know.
Well,
So
I think about this image actually as like almost like a tombstone in a sense, right? Like there's this kind of very funerary kind of sense to, but it's still living at the same time. So it kind of goes back to this kind of process of regeneration that you're with the condom cucumber image of, you know, we're all perishable in the end, yet this rock keeps living. But at the same time, like soil itself is created from these rocks. And so we are too generated from the soil. And so there's this kind of
soil, back to the soil. Mm-hmm. From the soil back to the soil. Yeah. This one. This one. It was an image I took, and that was the conversation. The conversation was about this particular, the Begonia, which is about a plant. And the person is specifying, no, this, I mean this one. I just saw it, I caught it, and I thought, wow, this is when you have a moment where the action and the demonstration is together, right?
Yeah.
And the image, it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like there's no, and I like that. No, not
there's also this
one. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's a power. Yeah. That's a power in the literalness, you know, that I find is easily dismissed. So I'm not interested in photography, but I'm interested in authenticity.
Yeah,
you know, this one.
Yeah.
The
this unfiltered gesture.
Yeah, and you know, you don't hear it, you see it.
Yeah.
And what you don't see, you can hear. You know, it's very interesting how the language becomes accessible in ways that we don't even understand. Like, it's quiet, but it's not. There's a lot going on. There's noise there. Like,
I mean, imagine if it was not the begonias or the flowers out there, but something else in place of those. That kind of gesture of pointing would completely alter the reading, right? Depending on what the object was that she was pointing to. Yet there's still this assuredness of this immediacy, right? This connection that's being made.
Yeah, well, I think the gesture is so. It's so pointed, you know, it's so boom. And the thing, the bouquet or the burst, you know, the red are so like the same way, boom. So you have these two vibrating places of the person giving power. You know, it's like that thing in the Sistine Chapel, you know, you see the Michelangelo with the Adam. The God, you know, receiving. It's a bit of that. This is what's going on. You know, these are like markers sometimes.
Yeah,
But I find that they're like situating me in contemporary media or happening, and then. Outside, like with the cucumber, this one, the grow rock, is like a move on the side. It's like a side glance. These are markers. Now, they're familiar. They have a familiar. People see them, they know what they're seeing. Because we've seen it so many times. If we look at the news, we're all seeing the same news. We're also reading everything. It's the same. You know, we're being piped, right? We could get it from different media, but they're all talking about the same in different ways, probably. But that exists. But are they talking about the grow rock? Maybe not. Are they talking about? So then you think, or I do. I think this is mundane. In comparison, this is so mundane. The grow rock is so mundane, but when I think about it, this is big. This is huge for me.
Yeah.
Alongside that, or even have something to do with that, where we have come. So there's a nice coexistence on different levels. One is totally, you could say, brought to the masses. The other one is private, very personal. So the personal with the private becomes a kind of a mirror. There's a nice conflation there as well, because I follow the news.
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of to go to this image that we're looking at now, that kind of holding, like, as media, as holding up a mirror to the natural world, and always kind of making that pointing gesture of like singling things out to talk about. But then, we do have these massive events such as like what happened in Washington, D.C. And so this image is from what happened on, on Friday, I believe, or Wednesday, I guess. But so does that gesture still exist when it's mitigated through these other channels, through media, when it's separated away from the event? Like you're not seeing the rock, or you're not with that woman and capturing her pointing. Now we're listening to someone else who's now pointing that finger and trying to understand through that lens now, right? That filter.
Yeah, but this is popular culture.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes, in some ways it goes back to, if you think you make something different in the gallery because you're expected to, because you are aware that someone who comes is prepared. If you think of it just happening, so this, whether it's on the street level, whether it's on the television, whether it's in the gallery, it will have the same, in some ways, what we know. It will, we could dismiss it in the gallery saying, oh, I've seen, give me something else. Or it's a reminder or history. It has a place. It has a place. But I think in terms of his longevity, it's in the arena of, it's not in commonplace. It becomes in the arena of history, in the arena of a milestone, you could say. Someone, the world has never been the same since. That image, or that what is taking place there changed us. What is taking place there meant something in a big way. This is an event that is life change, that resonated around the world.
Mm-hmm.
My little world does not resonate around the world. I know that. I don't expect it to. I don't fool myself. I'm not changing anything.
Yeah.
Any change that could come would be from my actions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I consider what I do part of my actions. It's part of my head, my hands. These are the extensions of this. The hands, things you make. So on some level, I feel a strength in community. I feel a strength in humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get beyond this too.
Mm-hmm.
Even though this has a replay to it in many different ways, we get beyond it. Yeah. The grow rock is also a signal for me of beyond it. Yeah. It's like it exists it could have been the same day. Could have been in the same day. That took my attention. Like, this also took my attention. But I think that attention there, knowing this existing, gives this more power for me.
Yeah.
you know. So it tells me that on an individual level, on a personal level, it's public as well. It's in this private domain. There is a sense of the big, the whole. There's something subtle. There's something infinite, but there's life here as well. And when you point that, when the person does this, you are in negation. You know, like sometimes when we are only, this is major. We miss the minor, right? But it's a combination of all these things.
There's something beautiful too in context of the image that's up now of what you were saying with these kind of personal gestures within your own little sphere, as well as this kind of balancing kind of effect or balancing elements. And it seems that it's growing harder and harder it's more difficult now to keep those gestures as personal and not try to have them sent out into this world and try to have some impact, let's say. But there is still a beautiful sentiment to this kind of community improvement, I guess, ultimately, right? Like this community betterment, this sense of place within a grounding, right?
It is necessary. It is just as needed. You know, if you think about it as being both collectively a throw forward, it is progress. It is. It's good that this happens. It's good that this happens because this makes us better. This makes us better. It's better that it happened than it didn't. Because now that it happened, we have an opportunity to better, you know, and it goes like that in ways, you know, I'm not saying or putting down the people who have been hurt or stuff like that. That is, major.
Well, even on the level that's by the fact of this actually now existing as part of a history, let's say, actually happening, there is no denying it anymore. It's plain as day. And so therefore we can now address it and then begin to build and move on from that too, right? Like to improve based off of this giant kind of happening mistake, however you want to term it. So,
and it just doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from something that we have been harboring, right? Obviously it took a long time to get here. And that time we need to look at too. We need to look at all the things that help us understand this or even bring us to this, what brought us here. You know, it's interesting that a lot of people are saying if this was a Black Lives Matter crowd, a different result. Result. There'll probably be a lot more dead people. And that's interesting. You know, a color changes the outcome too.
Michael and Roy, I'm going to have to interrupt you at this moment, I think. We have gone for an hour and 10 minutes, and there are no questions in the chat room. So there are no people with questions, and I'm happy to have you continue talking if that's what you want to do. I just wanted to let you know where we were in our scheduling here.
Leave it to Michael. What do you feel?
Well, that's it.
I intervened. I'm sorry.
No. What's you sorry about? This is it.
Because I was enjoying it, and I was just conscious of the time.
No, this is it.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful, and it's so fascinating to end up, I think, where we did with the events of the last week or so.
Continues.
Like, you know, majorly challenging events, but I do like the perspective that without that, how do we move forward? How do we recognize and how do we move forward? So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Anyway, I just did want to close today's webinar by thanking Michael Fernandes, not just for your talk today, but for your contributions to art in Canada over the last many decades. So thank you very much, Michael. We're honored to have your work at the EGA. So, and also to Roy, I know you've left Alberta and are in Hamilton at the moment, but we'll come back anytime. We're happy to have you, and it's been a pleasure working with you as well on this project and also on your exhibition that was here in the fall. So thank you. Oh, there's a note here from Zainab Verji, another award recipient from this year's Governor General's, just congratulating Michael. And there's a lovely comment in the chat, Michael, if you want to read it. Just from thanking you for the work that is thoughtful, meditative, reflective, and the idea of work being invoked. Work also expresses the desire. It is clear that the relation between work and daily activity has become more intimate. It relates more closely to the idea of techne and play, rather as against the notion of work, labor, and jobs. And I would like to say that David Harper has commented that you both have very nice hair. So.
Well, David, it ain't easy.
Is it cute?
Keeping it.
There you go. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for the
much.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roy. Thanks,
Thanks,
Catherine.
Roy.
Thanks, Helen. Great stuff. Thank you.
Yes, Helen and Catherine. This has been a great event.
Yeah, thank you so much. And please join us next Monday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We will be hosting our third artist conversation with Dana Claxton. So thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Okay. Everybody have a safe and wonderful evening.
Peace.
Bye, Michael. Bye, Catherine.
Thank you.
Bye, Michael. Bye, Roy. Thank you.
Bye.